Welcome back. Today I wanted to discuss some updates and changes that are happening to Warhammer 40,000 Battlesector. As you know, that's one of the main games that I play on this channel. And people have been asking me, since Slitherine came out with the release on December 2nd, stating that the upcoming Black Legion DLC was going to be postponed for an undisclosed amount of time. People were asking me if I had heard any more information. And they did say on their little update here on December 2nd that they were going to let us know an update on the situation on December 9th. And lo and behold, it is December 9th, and Slytherin has released more information. So I thought I'd provide some information. I was looking forward to starting that DLC here, but now that they've backed it up, I'll have to make some changes to the channel's plan. I was kind of holding off on making some guides, thinking I was going to be playing with the Black Legion here and making some unit guides with that. But obviously that is not going to be the case now that has been postponed. So I was waiting until December 9th to make a video so I could hopefully have more information, because this release was kind of causing some confusion because their website was still saying that things were going to be released at the same time frame, whereas this posting through Steam informed us that in fact the game and DLC were postponed. Now, I personally am not upset about this, being that I'm hopeful that they did this, because if there are some bugs and other issues, they will clean this up a little bit. Because as you may be aware, when I was doing the Deeds of the Fallen, while I did enjoy the DLC, I definitely thought it kind of came short of what I was expecting. And I think, with some of the DLCs they've released for the price, they've been a little bit of a letdown on some of them. And I think they're starting to lose the faith of the community, and people are leaving this game. So I think they really have maybe one or two more chances to really bring their A game and make some good changes here before they end up crashing this game into the ground. And obviously I don't want that to happen, because if you've been following my channel, you know that I have hundreds of videos on Battlesector, and I really enjoy it. So I'm hoping that this is going to be because they realized that there were some issues, and they decide, instead of making a lukewarm release to the DLC, we're going to put some more time into it and get it kind of bug fixed out. Because some of the bugs that were available on release of the new DLC, some of those bugs have been known for over a year and they hadn't fixed them, and they just recently fixed them after the 2 tournaments ago. I wanted to show how broken the sisters were, and so I just made all sisters Adeptus Sororitas army, and I just used the broken units, and effectively that came in on #1 on the tournament. Now, I had threatened to do that on another tournament right after the tower release, because those guys were also way overcooked as well, but I felt like that was poor sportsmanship, so I ended up using some other factions in addition to the Tau when they were first released. But I wanted to make a point, because people were saying that I was overblowing how overpowered the sisters were on release, and like I said, so then I just totally tabled most of my opponents on the tournament and ended up taking #1 position on that tournament. I think that made my point. I don't think I could have made my point any more than that. And if you want to see those videos, you can look at the tournament playlist where I go over that. So hopefully they are going to clean this up and make it more worthwhile. Now, the cynic in me would be stating, well, Slitherine has released a bunch of updates on a lot of their other games, and I'm a little bit worried that they may have too many irons in the fire and just overextending themselves. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be worried that they may have kind of a sloppy release again if they have too many things going on at once. So hopefully it's going to be the former and not the latter, but time will see what the situation is. So today they released some information, so I wanted to go through that. They did have a minor fix here, a bug fix that was only for PC platforms, nothing important, just some clipping issues. But they did release their roadmap for what they're planning on doing with Battlesector here, and I'm pretty excited to see what that's going to be. So 2026 is going to be a good year for this game, I suspect. Many people have been sending me some message that they thought maybe this game was coming to an end, but I kind of had a suspicion that this was going to be what they were doing, since they seem to be revamping it, as there's been some changes in ownership of this game and some things behind the scenes that they haven't really commented on too much. But as they acquired this game more within their own company, they said that they wanted to go in some new directions, and so their massive rebalancing packs and patches, that was filling me with faith here. And then with them starting to come out with some narrative campaigns, which they definitely should have had for most of these factions, so it encourages people to not only get a little bit of experience with the units, play around with them, gives them some idea with the abilities, and it gives them some control to get to play around a little bit instead of just doing like skirmish maps or the Planet Supremacy, which are, you know, pretty shitty campaigns, to be quite frank. Now they've also come up with some other releases here that are still in the beta, so hopefully they'll continue to improve those as well, because I've been hearing good things about some of the other campaigns that they have released. But going forward, so what is our timetables here? So the first DLC obviously is that Black Legion DLC, which is supposed to be released today. And they've already shown you the unit rosters and things like that. So if you want to see those, you can look at one of my other prior videos where I go through that, or just look through the Slitherine updates here. But it looks like that's going to be pushed back to early 2026 for that release. So I was wondering if it was going to be released around Christmas so they could capitalize on the holiday sales, but they have pushed it, in fact, into 2026. And now I don't know what early is. I mean, that could be anywhere from January to April. So, you know, stay tuned, and maybe they'll provide more information there. After that, they're going to create some major updates here for the Crusade balance updates, and that's the platform that I've actually been hearing that there's some good feedback on, that people are actually pretty happy with where that's at compared to the Planetary Supremacy, which I think is pretty universal negative towards that, because it's so repetitious and the AI really struggles with it. And, you know, they said they were going to sit there and really flush it out more, and then they just never really followed up with that. So I think that kind of burned some bridges, especially with the updates that they had released with the Chaos faction as well, because that was only not the Black Legion here, but the original Chaos update, where they only had like 7 units or something like that. And then, you know, they had this Infinite Swarm thing, which it was literally the same units would come out over and over and over again. So it was really just a rather boring situation. So I'm really hopeful that this Crusade may get finalized and be ready, because I've been really hesitant to do a Crusade campaign, given that it was released in a rough state. But with all these major patches, several people have been commenting that they really felt that it's been going the right direction and making huge advancements. So hopefully that will continue. I'm also hoping that it's not just going to, I hope this is going to be like 2 things. And so it's updates to Crusade and balance update, but I'm worried it's going to all be there, because what I'd really like to see is another patch rework with some of the Tyrannid forces, and maybe even adding a unit to that roster, or to the Demons Corn roster as well, because my god, they keep giving the orcs and, you know, the Space Marines all this love and giving them all these free units, but man, they got to add a few things to those other rosters to help them, because there's a few real big holes in those rosters, and those could be easily filled. Now I suspect they've been neglecting the Demons of Corn because they don't want to compete with the other Chaos faction that they're going to be releasing here, the Black Legion, because, you know, they don't want to be, oh, well, now you're happy with this roster here, and now you're not going to be spending your money on this DLC. Now, that would be a cynical view on it, but I do think there's probably some competing priorities there, which is a little bit disappointing. And then they released another statement here stating that in spring of 2026, they're going to release an Ultramarine DLC. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I'm not going to lie. The Space Marines already are getting a lot of love in this game. They've been getting a lot of free units. They have a pretty well-rounded roster, and now they're going to throw in another Space Marine faction in here. I was really hoping they were going to add like a faction that's totally unique, such as, you know, the Eldar, or some of those other factions that we don't actually have in Battlesector yet, so then they can kind of hit everybody's main factions here and then have real unique faction mechanics and things like that, instead of just having variations and reskins of models that have already been released. So hopefully that's not going to be the case. I know they had made some comments that they were planning on reworking some factions. Like some people were telling me that the reason they don't want to fix the melee with the orcs is because they're planning on making like a goth orc release, and then those are more focused on melee, so they're kind of waiting on holding off for that. I hope that's not going to be the case, because I would think that would probably be a bad way to go on this, and I don't, unless they make it like cheaper or they make some very substantial changes. But otherwise, I think that might actually backfire on them a little bit, unless they do an exceptional job with it. But I think it's just going to kind of turn people off if they're just doing these minor variations and saying, you know, give me another $15, $10-15 for this reskin and some minor changes, while there's still factions that people have purchased that still have lots of bugs and some balancing issues. So hopefully this will go better, and I think it's going to go. I'm being optimistic now, but like I said, I think if they do bad releases here and it's real sloppy and there's full of bugs and they're not reworking some of these balancing, I think they're going to end up driving this game into the ground, where it really has a lot of potential. It's probably one of the most interesting turn-based Warhammer 40,000 games out there. Now, with all these updates, you know, the multiplayer has been having more and more issues as well, where you're leading to a lot of asynchrony, where there's turns where you can't even tell what's happening because things are so disjointed and things are glitching out. So I really hope that they're also going to put some focus into fixing the balancing issues, the camera that won't zoom in on the right thing, some of the audio bugs, and then, you know, getting the playback to be okay on the multiplayer, because it can be really frustrating, especially for new players that have been moving into this game. They've been commenting a lot on my videos that they're having a real hard time figuring out why they're losing multiplayer matches, because, you know, a quarter of the replay of the opponent's turn is glitched out, and then like some of the units that shows have been killed then all of a sudden start standing up, or models that looked like they were wiped out then come back on that turn that when you take over and they're still alive. So it's causing a lot of confusion. So I really hope that they can fix that. That has been a well-known issue with most of the Slitherine games. I mean, even going all the way back to Sanctus Reach, that would happen. So I hope they can somehow tighten that up a little bit, because I think that's really causing a lot of frustration with newer players, especially because it is such a big game to get into, especially if you're not familiar with all the different units or Warhammer lore. It can be very, very overwhelming, but we'll see. They're planning on doing a new narrative campaign, then a major free update in the fall, and then another DLC released in the winter of 2026. So that should be 6 pretty major DLC releases here. So hopefully we'll find out more here. When I was talking about, you know, being a little bit cynical with too many irons in the fire, you know, I was looking at this, and then another major game that they have going on right now, in that they've been working on pretty extensively, is both Gladius and the Starship Troopers. So for Gladius, I'm probably not going to purchase this myself. Nothing here looks particularly interesting to me. But if you're, I know a lot of people with the big sales and things have been going on, so there's been a lot of invigorated interest in Gladius. But if you're interested in getting some of these DLC, they're going to release some new units here for the Gladius campaign here. As you can see, if you purchase the Rampage pack, you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 units. That's pretty. Oh, it says right there. I could just read. This is pretty consistent with some of their other DLCs. You know, I rarely find that they are worth the money that they charge, because a lot of the units don't seem to cause massive changes. And then other DLC will completely change how a faction works and give you like the most powerful unit ever. So if you're new to the game and you don't want to buy all the DLCs, because there's a ton of them for Gladius, I do have a playlist where I go over the different DLCs that I had purchased and kind of give my thoughts on the unit. Looking just over this real quick, obviously not without being able to see their abilities or statistics. The only thing that I think would be really cool potentially would be the Death Strike, because if that replaces your Basilisk, which is one of the longest range artillery in the game, and it actually does good damage, then that could be a new cornerstone to the Astra Militarum playstyle. because you end up having so many tanks and aircraft and everybody else. But if it's just a basic range 3 artillery, then it's going to be a little bit lackluster. But if it's longer range than that and can fill a new niche for you, then that might be great. But everything else here seems to be kind of low to medium tier units that don't look particularly interesting to me. So again, I don't suspect that I will end up buying this Rampage pack, but it's always subject to change. But as of now, I'm not planning on that. But they're planning on releasing this as well, and then going to the Starship Troopers. They released that they're going to release another DLC for Starship Troopers. Now, if you've known, I did a playthrough of this game here, and they had kind of told us that there was going to be this roadmap and other changes and things happening with this game here. So I kind of reviewed that. The big thing is their new territory mode is out, and they'll eventually go through and play around with this. Given that I'm very familiar with how Slitherine does a lot of things, I just expect everything to be buggy as all hell on their release. So I've been kind of giving it some time to get sorted out here. Now, I know that's a very anti-YouTube stance to take, but I just don't enjoy playing real buggy things, and I think it's kind of sloppy here. But I will go through and play the territory mode eventually. Right now, I've just been working on going through the Dawn of War Definitive Edition, kind of going through each one of the factions and doing a couple with Dark Crusade and working on Soulstorm as well. But I'll continue to play around with that, and it doesn't seem like people really want me to go through all the campaigns there, which I totally understand, especially with how buggy it is here. So I think I'll probably beat one with every faction, unless people are asking me specifically to go back and do some. I might then jump to Starship Troopers here and try out this new territory mode, which will, like I said, hopefully have the errors be cleaned up here. And so knowing about that territory mode, this DLC that they're planning on releasing here is focused really on giving you a battle group, which will focus, called the Eradicators, which will focus on using that territory DLC and then, or new mode. And then what it'll do is with this, you'll end up getting new environments, new player units, you'll fight new arachnoid units. There'll be some territory maps and technologies and objectives which aren't available to their factions. Because effectively what this is it sounds like it's going to be like almost like a random map situation, and you'll play through with these 3 different factions here, and then 2 of them we already own because we bought the Urban Onslaught and Raising Hell DLC, and then I have those playthroughs uploaded as well with the base game. But then you can decide which one of these factions you want to play as and go through the territory mode, unlocking unique faction traits and things like that to help you get through 11 maps from the base game, 9 from Raising Hell, and 7 with the Urban Onslaught. Now, when I go and do one of these playthroughs, if you guys have a preference on which one of these factions you want me to play through, let me know, and I will certainly do that. I have yet to decide if I'm going to purchase the Eradicators battle group. I'll probably do a territory mode with one of these other factions, and then if it isn't a waste of time, maybe then I'll purchase the DLC here and then go back and do another one. But I don't know if you're literally just doing the same maps over and over again and it's just like skirmish maps, or if there's more to it than that other than just doing random maps, unlocking your faction traits, and then doing the same thing over and over again with the same maps that were released in the game and narrative campaigns. So I kind of have a lukewarm response to this territory mode, but maybe it's much better than what I'm expecting it to be. But I'm kind of expecting it to be a little bit of a flop. But they are planning on releasing other DLC that actually has full narrative campaigns, and I will definitely be purchasing that and doing a playthrough because I did enjoy the narrative campaign aspects of the Starship Troopers Terror Command. And if you're interested in these strategy games and you're looking for something for a Christmas sale, I think you might be able to get this Starship Troopers with a good deal, because I think the price has been dropping pretty precipitously now. I mean, even the last sale was minus 45% off, so I suspect it'll be equal to this, if not greater, during Christmas. So keep that in mind too, because they are seeming to be pushing forward with some changes into this game. But like I said, with all these being their major games, having pretty significant updates all coming out relatively around the same time, it just worries me that they might be overextending themselves. But like I said, I've been pleased with some of the major changes they've been having on some of their games recently. So hopefully this is indication that they're continuing to improve and gonna release more quality games and updates into their other IP and resources and all that kind of good stuff. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I hope that kind of clarifies what my understanding of the situation is. Like I said, multiple people have been asking me for my thoughts, and because they've been getting some conflicting information about what they've been seeing online. And now that they've made the formal release today, I figured I would make a video here and just kind of update you on what the situation is, because if you don't have the game already purchased and you're getting these releases, you may not be aware of what they've been making available to us and what their timelines and plans going forward are. So if you're enjoying these videos, please give my channel a like and subscribe to encourage me to post more content for you. Have a great day.